All right, I don't know how many times I made it to the 7th grade last year to talk to you about behavior, but I made it a point every 4 to 6 weeks to talk to the 8th grade. So we're going to do that again this year. So I'll come every 4 or 6 weeks and we'll talk about what we're seeing in terms of behavior. I'm not talking about your class as in everybody that's sitting in this room right now. I'm talking about the entire 8th grade class. So we're going to look at what happened last year. Hopefully not make you feel too bad about it. And then we're going to see what we can improve on, okay? Alright, so a few things about last year. Your class has 110 or 120 kids in it. As a group, the 120 of you received 829 referrals last year. 829. That amounts to almost 7 referrals for every person in the class. Do you think that's low or high? That's pretty high. There were 200 majors in the course of the year, which is about 1.67 per student. So the good news with all of that is that half of all of those referrals went to 10 kids.
Well,
yeah. 405 referrals went to 10 students out of the 829. 405 of them went to 10 of you. That's over 40 referrals for the top 10 high flyers. That's a lot. That's probably most of you have somewhere in the 0 to 3 range in the course of a year, so 40 is a lot. You have to work really hard to get 40. Like, you guys are working hard in class, you have to actually, I think you have to actually put effort into trying to get in trouble to get 40, right?
Yeah.
I don't even write 40 in a year.
I know.
Like, I don't even think I write 12 in a year most years.
good.
Well, it's because of the fact that you have to work really hard to get a referral. So if you're working that hard to get a referral.
Does all that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay, so we're going to look at what's called our student pyramid, and I'm going to explain this to you. If you take 100% of the students in the 8th grade class and we put them into a pyramid, this is what we want it to look like right here. We want 80% of you to be what's known as green zone, which means in the course of a year you have 0 to 1 referrals total for the entire school year. 80% of the class. If we're working in a perfect school, this is what it should look like. 80% of your class has 0 to 1 referrals for the entire school year. 15% of you in the yellow zone there that you see towards the top would have 2 to 5 referrals. That's what's known as the yellow zone. If you have 2 to 5 referrals throughout the course of the school year, you get put into what's called this yellow zone. Once you go into the yellow zone, you're in the yellow zone. You can't come back out of it. That doesn't mean we think you're a bad kid and we've given up on you or anything. That just means that's the number of referrals you have for the year. And we track how many referrals each student has. And then the very top of the pyramid there, the red, that's obviously known as the red zone. That's supposed to be about 5% of our student body. And you get into the red zone by having 6 or more referrals throughout the course of the year. Does that make sense? So that equals up to 100% of our student body. How many referrals for what? For which section?
The whole thing.
Oh, I'm not sure. But each section, the green is 0 to 1, the yellow is 2 to 5, and the red is 6 and above. So for your class, 100%, it was the 829 referrals for the year. So, do you think your class looks like this?
No.
This pyramid?
No.
Anybody have any guesses on what the green zone number percentage would be? 0?
No way.
Much higher than that.
No.
Like 10.
Yeah. 40 to 50%? Anything different? Yeah, you just say it.
55.
55, okay.
60 to 70%.
15.
15%?
Yeah.
5%. Somebody said 5% in the last class, and I'm so thankful that it's not 5%.
60 to 70%.
What did Miss Munson say last time?
I said if the green zone had been 5% last year, you would have all new 8th grade teachers because none of us would have been here.
That's a lot of behavior.
That
Yeah.
means that's all you're doing. 6%.
All right, here it is. Your green zone, 53%.
I said
Yeah, he said 50.
Wait,
I said 60
wait, what?
to 70.
Oh, there's supposed to be
3 graders.
So, yeah, so let me explain this.
It looks like 40.
The 64 in front is the number of students. So there were 64 students in the green zone in the 7th grade class last year, which makes 53%. There were 17 in the yellow, which makes 14%, which is almost exactly what we want. We want 15%. The problem is the very top of the triangle. We had 40 students to make up about 33% of the student population. That's well higher than we would like to see. But it's also pretty typical for 7th graders, to be totally honest. You're 8th graders now, so we expect better because you're more mature now. Most of you. It takes a while for some of us. I was your age one time and I was super immature, so. I was a troublemaker. That's why I do what I do now. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So here's what all the referrals throughout the entire school look like by grade. And this is also a pretty normal looking graph right here. 3rd grade's really low. It just keeps going up and up and up until 7th grade. It spikes at 7th and drops at 8th. I would imagine if we were to look in 1 year at behavior, it would look almost exactly identical to this. Although 3rd grade's going to be a little bit higher this year.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
So, I would imagine the 8th grade will be either in 2nd or 3rd place in terms of behavior at the end of this school year, because that's a pretty typical thing for 7th graders to have the highest amount of problems. So it's kind of a normal thing for you to struggle in the 7th grade, and then by the time you're 8th grade, you're starting to figure things out again.
Why does 4th
Almost.
No, it doesn't.
We did, last period, somebody asked, has it ever been different? And we did have a graph that looked a lot different a couple of years ago. I don't know if it was 3rd or 4th grade, but we had the highest grade for almost the entire school year was 4th grade.
What?
That was 2 years. That was 2 years ago.
That was back when you guys were in 6th grade.
Yep. All right. So what you're looking at on this graph right here,
Hey guys, if you're silent, you can hear so you can write down your facts.
these are individual referrals per student. So I took the names off it so you couldn't see who it is. But you can see our top of the pyramid here almost had 100 referrals. One solitary student almost had 100 referrals. He had more than a tenth of all the referrals for the whole school year.
No saying names for
Nope.
recording.
The student. That's a lot. When you have 800 total for the school year, and one person almost has 100. That's a lot. But you can see it scales down from there, and this is pretty normal also. So we're looking at somewhere right in this range right here is where the red zone would begin, and everybody beyond, like right here, would be red zone. And this is all yellow zone down here. You don't even show up if you're in the green zone.
Oh, that's why?
Because if you don't have a referral, your name isn't in that system at all. So there are a lot of times where I'll look up a student, and if they don't have a referral at all, it's like they didn't exist in that system. Referrals by type, major versus minor. Excuse me. So this is what we want to see. We want to see about 3 majors for every minor or more, like 4 majors for every, or 4 minors for every major, I should say.
I was like,
That does not make sense, right?
majors.
We do not want to see 4 majors for every minor. We want to see more minors than
Wait a
majors,
second.
for sure. So this graph is good. I don't like the quantity on the side, but the rate at which you're getting minors as a group is good. Referrals by gender, ladies, you're over here. Guys,
Always
over here.
us.
Well, remember one was.
That is
We
also
are
completely,
numbers.
Wait,
completely normal, guys.
the markings. Is up this big.
So why is that, guys? Yeah.
Guys are
Which is not like.
Yeah, why is that John?
Would never know.
Girls are generally more mature than guys.
Well,
Thank you to those of you that are raising your hands so we can actually respond to your comments and everyone can hear them.
Guys, you do catch up to the girls. It eventually happens. Like, I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm about as mature now as my wife was 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
But that's just how it is. So, yes.
In one of our class enrichment classes last year, we had to write down what we found attractive in the opposite gender.
What?
And
It was for health class and it was
Yeah.
talking about the differences between boys and girls.
and the way we wrote things was like
Stupid.
neat, and our handwriting was neat.
And it's,
And when we were at the bottom of the whiteboard, we put a line to separate the 2 sides, and they were just like all over the place, messy handwriting and stuff like that.
and they made no sense. Like shaped. That was one of
I like
them.
to,
Shaped.
like, not all guys are just the devil, like.
Oh, and I'm not saying that at all. Don't think that that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you're a normal human being, is what I'm saying.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, there's lots of brain research out there that shows that boys are not wired for the way school is.
Yeah.
There's a ton of research out there that shows boys have a harder time sitting in class. It's not to say girls don't have a hard time. It's that girls are more likely to be pleasers, and this is overall stereotypes. So there are individuals that are very different within there. But the overall stereotype is a girl is more capable of sitting in class for longer periods than a boy. Boys need more movement. Our schools are not set up for that.
True. Not a knock on anybody here.
Nope.
It just is what it is. So here's what referrals by day of the week looks like. Tuesday's the highest. And that, if I showed you the school-wide graph for all 6 grades, it would be almost identical to that. So Tuesdays are the hardest. So today's Tuesday, right? So what do we do to turn that around?
Be good on Tuesdays.
Well, yeah, you can say be good, but what does that mean? Yeah. Why Tuesday though?
Well, personally, when I come to school on Monday, I hate everything. Like, a lot of people
Everyone.
are like this, and that's why it's just almost
But wouldn't you get more referrals if you were in a bad mood?
But on Tuesday, you're still in a bad mood, like, because you had school yesterday, you had homework, you probably got less sleep. And then Wednesday's just like early release, yeah, woo, we got stuff to do. And then Thursday's just like a great back to school, and Friday's obviously freaking awesome. So that's fun. Start of the week was probably because
Thank you to those of
Yep.
you raising your hands.
Because it's like the beginning of the school week and you're getting back from the weekend and like Monday you're like too tired to do anything wrong. And then Tuesday you're more awake and that's when like trouble happens.
I think that's very true. One more.
Why is there green on Sunday and Saturday?
Yeah, everybody asks that question. So the way we input data is we input it by date. And so if somebody wrote a referral for you yesterday was 9/11, right? If somebody wrote it as 9/10, we'd input it as 9/10, not looking at the calendar, and then it would show up on Sunday because
so
9/10
that no one
is a
actually came here and was just stupid enough to get a pen.
So
Actually, I
Well, wait, let me clarify that. People come to the school and do stuff on the weekend that would definitely earn them detention or worse.
Yes, they used to.
But we don't write them up because
I have
I'm
once.
not here.
I
Have
have
you?
once.
Usually if somebody's here, they just call the police if somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, this was a drama day and I happened to know the students and I told them that they could either serve a service detention with me during our drama practice, or they could face larger consequences later.
There you go. So it can happen on the weekend, but it's super rare. Here's referrals by problem behavior. And so this just is lays out what we're seeing. And number one is a minor for tardies. So if it has an M in front of it, that means it's a minor. If it doesn't have the M, that means it's a major. So good thing is, the top 3 categories are all minors. That's very good. But we definitely want to see the tardies.
This one. Oh,
What's that?
never mind, it was a major disruption.
Yeah, that's a
How is
major for disruption right here. Referrals by perceived motivation. What this means is when we're looking at this on the referral form, we're trying to figure out what's causing this behavior to happen, what you're trying to get out of the behavior. And so the number one, what this means right here is obtains peer attention. So you're looking for attention when you do the behavior. And probably a lot of people can relate to that. You're like bored in class and you want to get someone's attention, so you do something not very smart, right? And then you get in trouble for it. And that's what that would be. The second category here is avoiding a task. So a teacher says, get out your book and open it to page 235. And you're just like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's avoiding the task. And then the third category here is just obtaining attention from anybody. So even if it's the teacher, just trying to get attention.
What are the other ones?
The unknown one.
Avoid P.
Sometimes we don't know why you guys do what you do, because you're kind of aliens sometimes. And we don't know what's causing you to do what you're doing. So we just put unknown.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
So what you guys have to understand is this is not, I wrote somebody up and asked them, so why do you feel that you did that? Oh, well, I wanted to get his attention. We don't do that. This is perceived motivation. This is why I think you did the behavior. That's why sometimes it's unknown. Does that make sense?
What is what's avoid P obtain an item?
Avoid
Oh,
a peer, avoid a task, avoid an adult.
avoid A. There's a lot of stuff.
Well, avoid A is avoid adult. There are times that kids do stuff simply because they don't want to be in class with that adult. For instance, I'm going to pick on you, Coleman, since you asked that question.
Alright.
Let's say I catch you doing something out in the hall that was kind of silly, and you're embarrassed. And you have my class 2 periods from now. You know what? I'm just not ready to face her. So you do something silly because you don't want to be near me right then because you're not ready to. So you do something to get you written up, you might be avoiding the adult. Same thing, let's say, since Ashton's sitting right there, I'm going to pick on her. Let's say she sees you doing something stupid in the hall and you happen to have a little bit of a crush going on.
Wait.
Example, like I said, I'm picking because of proximity. So she sees you doing something silly, you got a crush going on, you don't want to be in class with her because you're so embarrassed still, you might do something to avoid your peer. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that's always the case, but let's be honest, this is middle school.
Who is that big
Or you could think that somebody's going to want to fight you in class, so you avoid them by going somewhere else.
Yeah, you bumped into Caleb's locker in the hallway and you knew he was angry at you, so you
He actually doesn't have a locker.
All right. This next one is referrals by time of day. And this breaks up all the referrals into 15-minute chunks. So here's what it looks like. Every referral for the entire school year broken down by time. And yes, what we can see very clearly is tardy, 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 tardy,
Well,
tardy, tardy.
12 o'clock is actually not your lunch, 12 o'clock is 4th period.
Why are people turning to 4th period?
maybe because a lot of people have math.
Have what?
That's what I would guess. Like, I'm
You said that they have math 3rd period, so
I
they're
know.
late getting out of 3rd and going to 4th.
yeah.
I actually had a different thought and most of the boys agreed with me.
What?
Right around the end of third period, you guys are starving, so you go to your locker.
Yes.
And you're hiding in your locker like this.
I don't hide
Never
it.
mind.
You don't hide it?
I just walk down the hall with it. Okay.
Now I'm hungry.
Hey, I get hungry too, but I have a job where I can just walk
Thank you.
away with from whatever I'm doing and go get food.
Hey.
Yep.
Yeah, way to make us feel.
You will someday when you have a job. So I'm going to break this down based on boys and girls here. So boys, this is what your referrals for the year look like.
It looks the same on there.
Much more, it's similar, a little more pronounced. The tardies are a little more pronounced. So you can very clearly see each tardy there. So what we're seeing at noon, which is your spike, is tardies. For the most part, it drops drastically from there. The tardies are the biggest problem that we're seeing at noon for boys.
Girls have excuses.
What's that?
Girls have excuses.
Girls have excuses?
Yeah, they have really good ones too.
Well, we're gonna, yeah.
We'll look at that in a minute, Leah.
And then you're like,
Here's what the girls' graph looks like. Now, the boys in last period were like, wow, the
Oh, wait,
girls
no,
looks way
25.
worse.
Yeah.
Here's how we're gonna compare those.
Okay, boys and girls, if you're talking, you can't hear, and that's the last time I'm gonna say that.
So, here's the quantity for the boys, right, on the side, 60.
Wow.
Now, what I will say, girls, is yours is much more spread out throughout the day than the boys. The boys are spikes. But you can see, right at about 3 o'clock is a problem time. What do you think's happening there, ladies?
Getting tired.
Getting tired? Getting tired talking?
Boys,
It's 7th period, we're ready to go home.
Ready to go home? That all makes sense with what we see here. So girls from 3 to 3:15, the number one problem is defiance. So you're just done with school, I think, at that point. You're like, mentally, I'm out of here. But you still have 45 minutes left. So we should end school at 3, but then the problems would start at 2. If it were that simple, believe me, I would be trying to end earlier.
End it at 10.
End it at 10? I like the way you're thinking.
I was gonna
One
say
class
that
per
right now,
day.
I'm feeling that.
one class per
Hey
day.
guys,
Yeah.
I bragged about that you were the best 8th grade class. Can you please live up to that?
Here's tardies by gender, same thing. Now, last year's, it was 8th grade, right? Where the girls overtook the boys in terms of tardies. So we'll see if that happens. I'd love to just see the tardy problem kind of go away in general. Or, I know it's not gonna go away 100%, but hopefully we see lower numbers than this next year. Yeah.
I don't think the girls are gonna be higher than the boys till the end of the year.
Well, yeah, it'll be a slow transition that happens. We'll see. Tardies by time, you can see actually 9 a.m. is just about as bad as noon as a class. And then tardies by day of the week, Tuesdays by far higher. And that's a really unique thing to me. I would think that this would be pretty spread out and that each day you'd have about the same amount of tardies. But Tuesday is clearly the worst. So this is something to think about on Tuesdays. Like, hey, I should not be tardy today.
There's no Saturday, but there's
There's a Sunday.
Is there
That was just a mistake.
Oh.
I guarantee it. I did not mark anybody tardy. I don't know of any teacher that marked anybody tardy on Sundays. Tardy by action taken. The vast majority of the time, you just got a detention, and that clearly has not worked. And that's why we kind of changed that system. So what to work on? If any of you have any ideas on what to work on before I come in next time, which like I said will be in about a month-ish, I would be glad to hear it. I would love to see, boys, I'd love to see less referrals and have it more equal. Because the 8th grade class is roughly 50-50. I think there's a few more boys than girls, but it's not close to what we saw on that graph. And I'd love to see the tardies lower. And we should see very few tardies by the next time I come. Why is that?
This is the beginning of the year.
It's the beginning of the year.
How many passes have you used so far?
Zero.
One.
So by the next
Hold it
time
up
I
with your
come,
fingers.
10. I was the party.
by the next time I come, I would imagine that number's gonna be a little different. I'd love to see zeros and ones still. But by the next time I come, I would imagine some people might be out of passes by then. And that's when we're gonna start seeing the tardies pop
Can't
up.
hold these like
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I want you to take silent time, meaning your mouth is not moving. And I want you to finish writing down any facts that you didn't get a chance to write down. I also want you to start writing down some of your thoughts. What do you think about this data? Okay, just facts and thoughts. We are not on summary yet. This is silent time. You should be working in your journal. Laura.